Yeah, Baba. Yeah, Baba. It's neat.
Hello, to my family, your time. Me pay my fam. Mo can bang many ni fam. Mo I wala don wa ake o fe be ni mene ngo ba na sanik ba boli. Ye wan mo one fake ya ye wan mo one fake ya woman for God and country. Alo je na ji bonin akole e blufu emi. O I wala don wa de nche ni tete TV jono ni okwo ne ngba eji ni tete obobi ashon. O I wala don ekomeko nwiele to mo shiete sando no le ake ngona gwa de nche ke nke bo bakbe eko ni wo ba na sanegba to mo bani nko bodane gandangbe no ya ewo ke Ghana mamu efe no ya ewo ni wo fio no ni wo fio so oyi wala don ake be fe be keji ona alert ne okobi ni okekwo wo sanegba ni o contributor un either va text message ye WhatsApp allo comment section okojomo chomo wo je ma lo mpo yibo eni wo yo ke ani fe mo okay ojo mo chomo ma jom ye jemo oyi wala don wa de nche boli mene Monday benyele Monday na Monday syndrome ona show kwani na Tuesday anyways so oyi wala don wa mene we ona nye wo fe a little bit of what a school feel ye watch ni aje klungo ni etron wani bi sa ye wakusumi ya ye keni bi mene le we ina some voice note ko ni min ta ni ma chamabo ni enye some historical ni bi ko me ye ni min feel like especially wo me ni wo le ni kan ni bi especially wo blantaye obaka say one or two ko me ye mi ona boninchon and like I said this is history being told from someone's perspective based on the information he have ona boninchon but bon ba anye o verify ni bi fe ni obanu ye yemo ni matwama abo emi min kpabo fa ko subscribe ko bomoden ko ni o subscribe kaje ogbe na jani fe mo ke ha me ni ameba fita wo yi ona boni nchon ojomo chomo tomobe no le ko aka wo comment section en kan yo no fe no ni aka wo geme ka osumo nwe ojomo chomo ba anye o ka majemi no ni wo chole voice note ye WhatsApp yibo ani o na ye yemo mfoni ne no ka o ka am ye geme minute enyope o chon ojomo chomo ewa wani fe mo wa min kpabo fa nye nke ebu ake ina ke nye ha ni ese je ko chon shi nke nya ke ake minute enyo nye mi aka fu mi nye mi afu ayo mwe anyway so oyi wala don wa de nche before ni ma ya no min kpabo fa be oli was school project one yanolo minda sister Abiashi nye eke nomba agbenele nwe wona donation from na atwe adoma nkenya ke na atwe adoma we na atwe adoma UK then we na atwe adoma US na atwe adoma UK eke no eba 2 weeks ago na atwe adoma US again no we banye so manye oyi wala don min daboke o we bi efenshi. Thank you so much, I truly appreciate it. Wa sister Abia le unke no eba mene le one of our favorites Rosina le unke eno bagmene so man Rosina oyi wala don wa de nche nyemeni nye fita commenters association ye nye naga man Rosina very active ye jeme wa de. So man Rosina, thank you so much for your support. My job wa ke onike ni okeke wongmene oyi wala don to mo beni nke boy mahabo update very soon to mo boni mfe last week ke 2 weeks ago mahabo update very soon ba no na Chicago ni we race so far ke no ni e ba hye wo fe mo oyi wala don right so ona boni cho so before my no mahabo kenye ba akaye bi amini Alanche fishing harbor ni teko ni jienyo a speech echi no kotan about youth employment initiative koni abasumo ake ebasumo ake elanchi fortunately naka no mi naka ejeshishi ke okwe flyer ni nke me screen no abo Ga-Mashie task force youth employment initiative Ga-Mashie task force Youth Employment Initiative. His Royal Majesty King Takite Ekochulu II Abiasuma is pleased to inform the general public and the people of Gandangbi about the Ga-Mashie Youth Employment Initiative, which seeks to give the people of Gandangme opportunity to work as task force for the entire community. Therefore, any individual or group of people who are interested should kindly contact the following numbers for updates and inquiries. Angman number is 02414268815, 02409 39038, 02023 88075, 02619 24221. You can kindly note that we would need 2 passport pictures and ID cards for registration purposes. If you don't have any passport picture, no amechombo number new kindly call 0277 388 241 or 05980 10133. So Ga-Mashie Task Force Youth Employment Initiative. Ga-Mashie Task Force Youth Employment Initiative. No jinoni ona ye screen no so fine bomode keji obenu chumo ni film yake utaw ni ofita neke task force ne here bomode ni otwa na mese ni abawabo abachomo gbejiano to ni yo ni obanye ni oko ohi abomi nka fito be awabo yemo ne toshi before ni matwa mabo ko abo yemo to abanake. This was in response to noko ni moko yue on one of the platforms. Inle no ni mo yue ni ekeneke yue mo ne ba. So ofa ne keji ole no ni mo yue ke onu okwe neke video ne nismo no jomo ba fe bo ake ye eko allow me fe ni ne allow me push no ko dabi je na kan ni the historical ni bi ni yo me no ni means money especially wo blantai ni wole some of these things when you work say. So that is the only purpose we mean try neke yue mo ne mi abo je yi to any I can have because mo go be saniko ona bonicho because inle sandi no ni mo bi inle no ni mo yue ne warrant the get response but mo benin ko bo ni bi ani yo mi ewo ni min sumoni wo butwe so waka fite be of fine our bo yue mo to ke work wo se oba ni work basani on the other side.
Ago Abrade Odei Wekuma bi Chame Kanyeme Onupai Shi Onupai Owa Oyi Lumoe Romoe Kemambi Ke ta frache Wekumin ajo Achomo doctors, lawyers, professors, ke other benai babaho kawekube leke igbene iwa akadimo adumo adesano leke efe onupa she inja eshiba mi ba jale no ko mi fi o ye inyemi kembi abuaje Kofi Oligijo isane bimo ke haboni ga shikamo yo ha yo gan bokete lawe ke la côté ado awushi Watch bokete la weshi ma afoshi 1606 19th of April Mon Neshi Enyemi Niji la côté ado awushi Lahun eba moment mi Akaboni brema chakpa kashi ke hanuma ke Ga-Mashie biye e abala ke adu awushi bote monte ke te peki e amo bokete lawe niji enyimi ebi niji lumo bote mene ke oshenunwa Sabran ke wo gbejanu to ke ha ganda gbeji ji ashi gonti afi ipo no abochi bolabi le tututu ba fe gonti kenkre mo gonti ni yenyu ka kadi mu ake bokete la we ebi lumo bote wale ni mene babu romo ni jigbeze ma lele ka babu romo tashi ena piano ke shidmolo no ana lumo boy moja ni ji gonti ye nunwa dabu ami yo gbajano to nínú wa me eto no ake lumo gonti boy moja ke ha mo ni bi aifa mo ke ha bo ni gagbajano to yo ame ha bokete lawe ese afite ame ha egbajano to achia boni nu wa me emomini nka kwa gana me kaje la Palm Beach ke ho kofiana kenya ke bote ahun kenya adam be bokete lawe la tutuntu edabu ami no cho gana me esikamu no kwe que la palme non que ho que tu la de la pour clinique ni mene wo tutuntu e wo ke wo yi ete fo nufu se yo ape di mo ni ba kojo wo fe one by one ye wo musu se di wo boket la côté ado ausi le ho e kwa ahun ka gbe wi ni ba jo nse beni ne ke gbe me yo ne ni ichi ameta ni jale amemi boni gbejanu to kan sin ye hesiba mi romu ni jo sofo ni hie ma ni ma e ka amede kokko ne lele na ma fe amenye ngba pi ni amekatu ni ameye anukwale ameye anukwale ni amanu kwale ele meko me bachano si wohino bi kaje meni yen wohie ni je temanu dande baba ba che wono woke peseku minya ke nabra ke musun wochomo woyi otumu feloi do wo ha anu kwale anya kashi boni saleje kashi e ja ke ni bokete la wo shie la côté ado awusi e bote granda ngbe mi ojogba ni jage e ye la nu kwale akelele so na yin mi so afun no ni ne wo granda ngbe amachine e tu na kan tu mo pepe yo kemba ado awusi dabo ami ye he shi ba mi je ni ko lai e jake na kan bia mi ayi kusi eye wote ni jo butu ko wutu eye dani Nikolai le chose ayi kusi bi ama ka ayi te ni mene ama session ji shimpan bi ye neke ame bia mi ne kaja 1200 up to 1400 there ne barake tumana bi ani ja ikushi ke wete ke Nikolai abura bemi abura ebaku na ke gbejano to eyekoshi eshakekoshi she bonds ke aquamus they are the people ni yo yema ne barake ayikushi ebi aite lahun eba mo ete eba mu ese ojogba ehie ese ojogba like a Portuguese be a kenkren je tashi ke ha podcast niji o second na niji adu awushi na ame Portuguese bi agbe ni wo jamwe ni mene wo kusum fe mo ni mene ta frache o ya na wo ye alo wo ncheme ko ba lo ro mo eko me ni boni sani kusum gbeje to anu ame le bera ka chi mo eto odofa eto amale eto nibi ni ehin je da kai aite niji ayikushi bi aite eke emegbe keja 1400 up to 1467 ameyete niji ayikushi ke wete ke Nicola leji launa kan bi ami leji kakalo ni fami keja na kan bi ami je Nicola ke Portuguese die bashiakan alo ka bananda she aite jeshi ni bashe ama oshimpano. I'm talking about 15th century up to 1576 to 1578. Then the abana asene stula ni Nicolai ama oshimpa biami aite aseo le egeba Portuguese bi aba muna kan ni na aite abi na chola oula mampo kan aite abi na chola oula mampo kan neke adode akabi ye obutu ko wutu hishi na ke fo kan ku ye le achi ese awotu mete ejamini baba neke bia mi ne fe aikushigbo 1483 amo shimpom neji aite enyemi ama aiti abacho ese up to 1519 da gaja meheria le bashe amo shimpano na up to 1578 ile we bashi we bashe Nicolai jameja wote ebiyo adode akabi neke mampo kan shi e abara akeshi ye heshi ba mi mampo kan egbe boni watiti wo ka boni wo komo wo ka boni wo ye wo ya nukwale akanaka nie shaka owura mampo kan no lojinu no na chira otumete ni apate hin kaje na kan bia mi kemba e abara akeshi ke na kan bia mi kemba ina ko no mi chanu e abara ke jameje ni enga ni ji adodi akabi e abara ke shi pragono ni ji ayawaso slave market noni wo ba gbagba history e alo wo ba ta iwe mo ni tafrache shi onupa ekome lumo ekome ni ameha nukwale afefan ahawo noni wo wote mbe ni kalo ba sha ejo ichwe no kaji wo brahin ko branta ke hime ke lumo ke manjachame ke manjanyeme ke wawa ye ke romo ni ta frache mene e abara ke e ko be fe mo ke gan oni gan chika mo yo ni wo ka nukwale fun osin doji wo na gba e ja ke gboko ba ke akele loko ni eta homi ni ebi esali yo kaja ga ishona ka kuse ka bota ya wasu eja ke gbon se ka akwamu me ameji meni holoja ameji meni here ni efe na agba because of slave trade no e abala akashi neke gbaji ano to ne be kaji e bale na kan sani game amo ame ni amewo ame no to bo mene bo wo yo Nikolai mene wo yo tumabie mene wo yo akwamu me mene wo yo neke tabi hadi yo mo pe ko sikejo kesho adu awushi abuaje Kofi Olikijo bo bi yo mo to ojuba adu awushi eshi 1680 me ya ihin dan ma ban se ko nega beni nega magbajano to ne ya no fe no mi adu awushi eye shin edfa ne nye ganda gbe ni e amolumo bote ka pe keshi afi o ha kese ka ji mi male lenu wa me alogbojo ka gbe na ma foju mo ko ni jaje mo alo sa mo alo nakani ni eye bua lo adu awushi eye shi nekani bi ne fe ni anu no mi egboko adu awushi 1680 kaja ga nsona ka gbe ayawaso ni mene na hie mi jameje ni musu chole ka musu sha ka adode aka bi ni ju obutu ko wutu sashie na me fo papache wese ni ji 1654 ni ji gan akwa asonche se adumo Nikolai ike nye fa ne fi oni mi yu call en cat no mi chana no beat by beat no kaji breaking ba mi ta fracture ye shiba mi fi o makpa fa ni akeje market owula mampon kan musu tole ni enga ena akakpata ewule hin neji adode aka bi ye kaje shona keta ya waso ni obutu ko wutu ne ka fo owura mampon kan enga adode aka bi ne ka fo pekwache wo se neji gan akwa asonche say 1654 that's the second stool after Nikolai stool aka sene Nikolai stool ko the chief leagues of the Ga state ekome egbe ayemi ake Ga-Mashie which is not je nakaji ni any mistakes ni sani wa fe correction say any ekani no adumo Nikolai ni je asene no ake fo papacho we say ni je second stool keja 1576 to 78 e abalaka the second stool afole e abalaka 1654 papacho we bi ye ni afo akwason chese e ba fe second stool first stool fe asene fripon sorry asene Nikolai stool neji 1576 jegbe area kemba 1654 neji papache we say neji akwa asonche as a supreme commander ka ha adode akabi je kure agun je afose to mi jalayeli eka akwamume jalayeli eka ayawaso jameje le abalake adanse niji ofori ankama ke ejemi nu niji manche niji bu ankama anye ni afonini ni abenye ni amebaye abu agan ni amache asene amache achem 3 groups ni amo amenya mabobode nakai ke ha akwamume amesifimo ke bona memu ma adu awusi esikpekemu ake ba bote gan mi eko nwe eche ni ekeshi 1680 kala hu ye shiba mi mali e iye no mi manfi o ni ma mambi anale no ni anu heli egbe na eje ni abarake ofori ankama ke bu ankama akwamu me egbe enyimi bu ankama ni ba ofori ankama no okankwe ke asangbo okankwe baje tashi ke akwamu me idake boni wana wole no mi ye heshiba mi bravo ke jami wo akwamu ma no bravo romo ke jami ya sene nke bravo numo bravo ke jami na ka hewale enyo akwamu ma no ni oya barake kaji afo papache wese ni jindo ga akwaso sese mesani okanku anye edumu na dina jameje ni ya barake be abatota no ofori akama eche asenteme eche no sorry eche adanseme no adanseme le nche badumushi ni eche adanseme na adanseme eche adanseme niji okankwe ni amo meche acheme ni abalake abenebe sani atota ni akakwamu me anyi ni asasa ni biata nomi aje ni akafo jambiamu se ya ga dantria jambiamu ne no ajomi aje ne ke slave trade ne ka kwamuta iwo na ka to ga dantria no adumo na ka fo dantria e jaga mi no jin jambiamu elo le ga to dantria e amini baba ni ofori akama ke acheme ni di 3 groups e ba e abaraka bebe kisana aka akwamu ya fe lomi o kankwe eto Ga-Mashie kankwe to gbajano to fe ni ahina kwa ni di Cape Coast manche e kazi ni la womini edumu ese ojogba ole loko ni note ko de dani sose ko pe to fefe o kankwe Ga-Mashie kankwe e ka kwamu meta mi eto gbajano to fe ni efe wolo ni Cape Coast manche ni ji ahina kwa empiase ke ha ga ishona gbajano to ka wojine sign ni ta fracha mene Christian boke ya heshiba mi wolo ya ni Ga-Mashie kankwe sign ni witness u ya mene ga ba fo pano ni mo fi am ayo se agbene no se o ta mi be ta bia mi eye be fe adu awusi ye gboko ka shi 1680 na mi abara ko kan ko ye pata na adu awusi lewu esin mini baba e abara ka le Ga-Mashie kankwe le ba shi ese aka fe butu nese aka yoyo jameje no ashango kes obo ade se ete anao e popo up to today ado awusi o na ba yo apele bedo ni lawo cho to bo ni ado bokete la wote lawo de kete do e abala ke kaji na ka bo foro nkama ashango kese ete tumayu nye sekenya tumayi lawo na nye sekenya ifo bi pao ye dwe ke hiete aite aikwe okai ayele dede kokoi ke ayoko adu we leke ofori kama hishi ni akefo Ga-Mashie aikuma ti ekuban no akwamu me ameruga state 48 years. I'm a Ruga Adangbe Ike Akwamume. I'm a Ruga State 48 years. Nimokomugo nye samina. Ofori ankama le. Ne nyemi jibu ankama nija danse me. Eke tumba bibi yo bahishi. Nija yako adu le kelefo Ga-Mashie. Aikuma te kuba ke kwa mutabara. Nomi yuone. Nomi ni yuon ke no me fantabura dun kwa bi amba chekashi ye gan. Ye tami. By God, by 16 years ready and win. Nomi British be here. I'm on my shekeshi. 16 years ready and shekeshi. 1609. Now make a fire nimbo Kofi Oligijo. Niji Abuaje. No, you Jameje. Like a fire wo. Sempe be here. Obutu menye. Mankata mobutu menye. Akan Majebia, Obuto, Niji Shipia, Niji Aikan, Obu Mefo Obutu soldiers. Aquashon Obutu soldiers. Sinipim Obutu soldiers. Makata Obutu soldiers. Enije, Mefe ni Amefase. Mini Baba, Fante Aburadun Kwabia, Amebiyo, naturally, I say, Dua, like a Tumayinshi. No one Abola Manchefio, Gan, say Atofu. Ejake ka me biye be Ga-Mashie amena bini ne amena kansua efi ogbese manche no ni to no nusu great Oligijo ji akwamume adu awushi 1680 keje 1680 ma ebega ma de don e akwamume de Henige ni ofori ankama ebi ayikuma te ekuban ke kwa mutabara niji ga gbese ke abola henijo ne abara ke boni gbajano to abakashi ni iyano mima iya woji gbajano to no ka kwa ganshona ke je ta frache elimina kasi niji cape ke ho ka gbe adan akwamume ame nagbe ye jenfe mini baba owula Ga-Mashie Aikuma te kuba le basane ke ni bi na ni akagbeta na Oligijo me you about 1680 up to 1728 ni onyeni onu loko shishi ojogba in Kami keje 1680 out to 1728. Je historian say ni akanukwale fon shi ni bi na afọ na yin sumo nu won anukwale alo oka mene mi to no nu ndoko sisi ojogba ke onyo shia mene la gani gasate agamboko ye ni bebe ke titimo ke kokonsayeli pese kuminya ke atimuhi ke ni ewo gbogbo ni ka je do keje shia de na ke bebe ke ni bi shia ke way bag alo eto agbo na be fe mi ni be ato akrowa ke ke shia foshi ke ode ni ba domo shia amba to mo shia cheme no ni seko be ni ka gbota no le ba ye bo awo se fe se ka boko ba to shia aya ise na hale si je lo to ake e ko bo ade ni eja ke su bon ko jiemo ke ni o ke na nkwale ni yomi no ye he ba mi a cheme ni ba ni onomro ko ye na mu yekun ni ji onomro ko adai bi onomro ko lewe bi ye solo ame ni solo aya apeku seshi ni afele abacha abe onom adai family shimbene ameko ko lewe bi agbe kefitai na mefele onomroko adai which is wrong ni I can deceive warfare your gas state which is bad no ofori akama ke ebi Aikuma te kuban ke nyimi yo ya shiba mi kwa mutabara ka amenyeme niji teko din ka ya tin din ya gbo niji Ga-Mashie kuma te kuma ebini kwetia owaska enyemi yo Ga-Mashie kuma te kuma gelefo no jize ma ya kenke teko niji te ku ni ya shiba mi agbo ka frupon wo tuma niji gase egbe ni ankama niji ofori ankama bẹ́ẹ̀ náà wọ́n tún máa wẹ bí amamẹgbẹ́ ni lọ́ọ́ solo bọ́ni gbẹ̀jẹ̀nù tó ẹ̀ka mọ̀ sí hàn lọ́ọ́ olígi jo onomrọ́kọ̀ kọ̀ọ̀lọ́wẹ́ bí ẹ ní àmẹ́jì tààgùlọ́ ẹ ní òfòrò ẹ̀ka mọ̀ kàmí bá ẹ̀ àbàlá kẹ̀hán bẹ́ẹ̀ ní nìkẹ́ gbẹ̀jẹ̀ tó bá bá yà ẹ̀ ṣì bá mi yà wọ́n kí tẹ́ka mọ̀ mí yẹ. Okanja eye Ga-Mashie tako tu enupa eye Ga-Mashie tata ina ko nupa tata ina ko esi agbaji aya atu ese oji tako tu itako din ka aya din ame se se ji agbo lo ka mi gbara iwe mu na emi yin papa fai Ga-Mashie ya ta the daily socks 1001 pages kaje 1657 up to 1754 nọkọ bẹ́ẹ̀ nínú mi máa bẹ́ẹ̀ nọkọ bẹ́ẹ̀ náà nkwalẹ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ́kàjì máa àdó àwùsí kẹbọ kẹtẹ làwẹ̀ amẹsẹ ní àkọmúmẹ ẹnyẹ bàkọ nìkẹ ìwàlẹ ní amẹkẹ lẹkẹ bíà mi amẹkẹ àyíkùsí kẹ wẹtẹ kẹ ní kó lámì ẹ tsakpa. Nimene ayikusi sheshi keje ayiteno keje amano keje ashangodo keje ayitumano keje Ga-Mashie ayikumate ekubano nimene ayikumate ekubano pone acho ese tono bi tono nigi bua tono 1734 eba ye Ga-Mashie mon eba kwase ejageje gase je noni ga se je no bieje seje adu awusi no mi bele adu awusi be ese nibi ni tete sika ni ba chake no e balake Usher Fort ke all the classics say okanja akela adu tu ike tuntana ni akeba program ni eba eyega nukwale ni di gbese adontin ebe ami eketeko tunu ni vexed ba crash ni e abala ke kaji na kan ake shwa ke emu ke yeli bawo onomro kokole we biade henije ni kole ba fe caretaker with interest e akokwa kaje 1876 up to 1898 before the African declaration kintakita you are the facts ke okanja the second field marshal ke Ashon Katai na me fe declaration ke ha akega gbese kole no mima ni dumuno ado ausi se shie la côte bokete la we se shie shi bokete la se shie ami yenu wa agbaja no to mi ni ado ausi se shie ya he shi ba mi ke samo ke gbẹjẹun ló tó kó yẹ ní sananya tashi ní afẹ kobe n'akọ ní akẹjáde ní akẹ gidigidi kẹ mìfún kẹ kante nowó mu kẹ tse kẹ mẹtura mu kẹ tafratsẹ wọkọ mu wọ̀nyí enye ká kẹ jáde ní lọ́wọ́ adu awusi sẹ kẹjẹ 68 up to 1728 Ga-Mashie enutumu ní akpani ìbátu kẹ sek. Can have sake of Adangbe State e abala ke be kole we be a tract ni ake ha amenye ni efi ake ame tutuntun afe caretaker with interest ni amekwa shiponji amo boni gbejanu to e bakasi ni no je mi nke yi to alo ke mi isusumo dabi shi brofo ke ke ota o ke ni ate modin ke wo du mo wolohin no mi ke gan tete ake gan adagbe tete boni e kashin ko kwa mate versus busumpim kintakita you are the first be ami gan e ke nuwa usunje e ka e ke lama usunje ni bi ale ke lajo usun ni di airport high street ni kan hin no ji gan state ke lama usun je osu no ma pa bo fai abuaje oligijo nje yue mo ba wa bi ye be papa mi nke kadi bibi ba mo mushi kaji ngene ni yoa ona ni asmonu to mo ni nke bo ke great ozonkonu nke nyen bo yue mo na je ngene ichu ambe ka yue na je ngene si nya ko bituebo wache no mo la kote adu a ushi ni tashi ke ta frache me ni yo ade se fe ni yo fe wonye wo ke gidigidi ajaje ni bo no ni wo mo sa ni wona wo leji wojie peseku minya ke wadi wo mususe ke epapa ke fo lile ni wo ka yue no sha yue mo ke woche boketela ke la kote adu ushi ba hishi ojogba ni mene se gbese mambia bi ni abana lumobote ni mene abana ake la kote adu ushi ese ashimo mi gan ni manche ni ja iku mo ti eku pa lawe ba mo mi ahun ete no ni keto sakumo lahun techikumi ni takikombi the first title ni mene me ko be use as am surname no ma pa fai abrade je ode ni do de ka abrade ni de nyene kan no ko be mi ejake ode edumushi ni ifa abrade do nyemi kembi nyemi abu mbi ke nyemi abuajo oligijo ichimbe ke several times ni hako mituebo shinoni mi to ma uefa ji ka ko be fe mo abagan state manche jase foi ke jase chetuole manche jase foi ke jase chetuole le manche e cabinet ji jase foi ke jase che ni jase che ko ba shiko neno kaji bo manche ni jase che to boy na ke jase che to thy kingdom come ja eto ese dani iba barake bu manche obadumushi ni jase ko ba ne ko bi fi mo ni abatu ese no bu manche on cabinet fi o jase che ke jase foi seche fe seche e ba he wale ne ba ka ke ba tu jase che ni tumo alo e ba tu kimbe ka ko ni tumo tabida wo kai mi sa e ka to ye 1904 ne wo taki obiri e aka je jase che dile ni jele ha ma na elu aka jele ha ma na elu aka meneji manche no ha 1918 ake pa taki obiri ke sakun to shishi ga kwa sonche ke boni ni bi tele no le great oligijo ma pa bu fai adu awushi ye ese akwamume amahema nani abarake ame solemo ka mo ma dukwale yele henije ni ofori ankama ke onomro kokko lewe bi ye ame ni ja danse ka chem ame ko be femo ke bri niji mampon kan e mami se na ke ba he e wale akwamumadi he nije ne abarake onomro kokko lewe biye he mo ke yeliye no afi ame ake caretaker in interest no kaji noko ni yenu chichi the great oligijo no ni ma ka bo peji ado awushi di shiche to boni yeyu o mo e cabinet ni wo fe wo ka fo nipa ni ebalake ka wekunu pa ye ani wekunu pa abomode ni eke gajase gapamu su jase che ke jase anye ekobe femu anya ba koni adumu na kai wale no koni gamanche ena ele ake alo yosi ake alo enutumu edumu shi ake lele mogomonye wola afwa eto ni newo e ka bala ake mele ke obrajo ko teshi alo mo ko teshi na efe ni fo alo efe de ko e ke ya pasa manche koni manche aye abuale poni e bala ake gan ni yo ejija eje mi ke bo ke mi wo fe ni wo yo gan na gbe platform se anu ke we ku mo abi ke ni eja ke woni bi fonji fe mu ke woni bi na eja ke woni bi na pala fa ke woni bi na ehin no ha mene ga ke ga gbe state wo komo wo eja ke oyin loko ni ona se ko lo papa ni emu ke yeli kan kwale akonkele tin nakai dino ni ha ni mo eya anu ni ona se ko lo papa no ba ojoli ole no da leshi ni yonye anu kwale no agaba sa gan da gbe miji ye ebe se eko ni ebe wale ko ni mi dumo ne ka egbane no ni ke quotation manumi ni menega tete ayakani ni dan like the others leagues in the Ga state or Gadangbe state the other leagues ya Gadangbe state or cast 999 years because of Portuguese beer makpa pramano no bi fe fai alo pramano ni yuemune ya kanu akane Jeremiah 32 8 to 16 no sir ike the committee of inquiry 1975 year 111 achampo time ni atoga state machine ngeba afopano Christian box castle indencha ni gamancho kankwe ni ahina kwa maselo ngeba afopano kaja 1680 up to 1728 la ngeba afopano brother abi odi abi wekuma abi ejaka jo wekumi na lumo ke majia cheme ke dupai ke doctors ke chame ke nyeme obrantai ko brayi ko brayin wa hoye romo ka gbanfo acheme fe nke yo wa peje ke mo bonale egba na ha mi ni efe ede mi jo mo pe ke ha e ma wi mo no mi koni aleno kaji ya yo mo na mi ye yomo ko akondo alo yomo ko asabuko yi ni ekole enako eni asini mojogba if you ready no ma imagine ni twa no ma nyaba ga emimbi anukwale ni anukwale awun to twa no ma nyaba keha tuma ga adangbe Steven tuma ga adangbe radio.
Right, so here we go. If you make a onu message ni monigbe wonu if you make voice agbene fe familiar your platform no ona watch ni Yankose legi monigbe ni wonu ni have a little bit of history when it comes to Ga-Mashie ona boninchon at least a center a lot on the history of Ga-Mashie, Aloga, if I should put it, and I believe I there are a few things come mini what may be wali ona boninchon, and I'm sure I can see one or two things come any what pick up here and there ona boninchon nika say mole da look ke onu noko ye audio mini ye contrary information beka Ona bonin chon obanye ni o send me the corrections no feel like ekole neke audio ne a warranto allo keji obasumoni bon anwogbe in terms of no kondi otawni o correct based on the history ni wonu ne you are more than welcome bona bonin chon just send it over to me ko obasumo woni bodi encho yuenwe obanye wa arrange ona bonin chon because history lessons ele eyan esani wole wa history ojoba keji wole wa history e ba gba wona ade enche ona bonin chon. So there you have it. Ni noni mbotwe the first thing ni audio just noni mbotwe the only thing I mean the first thing ni banjo mo mijake look we have a long way to go. We have a very long way to go. Ona bonin chon ke okwe obana ke wasanji ne je ngmene ejeshishi wasanji ake gandangbe bi wasanji ne ejeshishi eche. Ona bonin chon once again no fire ngmene boli history to monye no ejeshishi eche ni ole I hope ake our generation ne wabanye what turn a new leaf. Ona bonin chon I seriously hope ake our generation ne waba turn a new leaf. Koni some of these things what put them behind us on a bonin choni what bomodi ake wabanye what forge ahead as one people one Gandangbe people because Charlie onukpa in Kenya ebi ake ke tokunye wo etowo. We are tired of the mess. Ni will find ourselves in as Gandangbe form be. What generation etowo. We don't want to pass on the same thing. Can be conclume. So some of the key things like one of the some of the things ni like a track what like a tuntene try audio ni obutu which is pretty much clear ke Gandangbe denche be obanyo jamienyo obanyo wa jamienyo ona boninchon obanyo wa fele jeni a jamienyo ni be allo enemies that be she nyeme ona boninchon. So don't get me wrong, we can put it in two camps. Camp 1 be numo bokete lawe le campaign numo Yankose nchono kwake ishipon a territory start off from the other side of the Ga-Mashie to Adan, and the other campaign is with numo lakote aduawishi ni leun no start off from the other side all the way to Winneba Junction. Ona bonini e shikamo yo. So these are the like I said EU camps in be shishidu mami no me use camps just koni wanye wafe na can differentiation ojugba ona bonichon. So camp 1 numo bokete lawe start from the other side of the Ga-Mashie agbiona ya dan, and camp 2 numo lakote adiawushi start off from the other side of the Ga-Mashie ni agbiona yengbe ye Winneba Junction agbeno wana akeshi akwamu bi ameye wono keje 16 date 1680 to 1728 in verify and date ne, and they were correct on abonichon. So for neke period bodencho bana kendwe woni emeko agbenenwe woni efetumo woni bi komeni wo fio trie efutumi wa ke wajin komeni eba futuwo ni tomonye beni wo yue wo bena kan wajin ona boninchon shamonto ne wajin kome eba futuwo. So you can understand that ke blofo me ba ye wono ameke Kristo jamo awo me dijin by force ameke me wono by force ona boninchon keji wo ni e chakin skweni wo wa ye blofo man nkwe skwen mo amba ja no gonklowi noni wo ja no ame ba ja ona bonini yo. So we wono nani what gene kome kebodencho ko bana ka me origin tree origin ni onake it explains why ni wasafo no mo ke ni bi efe a lot of akan ni bi ni efutumi ona bonincho because from 1680 to 1782 ona boninchon I'm about 1680 to 1728 82. So for 48 good years 1680 to 1728 to 1728 akwamu bi ani ameje wono no. It should tell you how ni wagbai ko make woni bi fe una neke influences na yemi wo yuemo etete podi enche una neke influences na yemi ni agbenenwe no ko ni ka won weni emi unji ake sempe mankata akama je ni bi fa me fe ball ameshishi jo butu ona boninchon butu they are warriors ona boninchon chimo from Elmina Castle to Adan akwamu say ameye ni bi pi yemi. That is why it make all sense ni onake like I said wo yue mo e kome woni bi e kome ni wo cho wo gbe ye kome podi enche onake na that a canish, if I should put it that way, that a canish influence yemi ona boninchon eke gan akwashonte niji pakpanche we benoji first one stool house I established in 1654 in Google ni makwe a whole lot of stuff bolly she na online but I'm sure I can let documents because Nikolai stool I established around 1576 ona boninchon so agbene we jami won womeni wo yo Ga-Mashie me wole jami won so jami won akwamu bi anoni. So like I said, it explain a whole lot as to why we have a lot of, like I said, a Cornish influence on Abonichon, especially in the period between 1682 because Kemogo ruled before the 8 years. That is a whole generation on Abonichon. It is a whole generation. So wasafo nilante ona any asafo lala GM because akwamume from 1680 to 1728 ameye wono agbene Christianborg Castle lewu echono that is the oldest list na kan jame fe for 999 years if you na go blame abi actually I have the document too money send me audio send me documents say on fe ona boninchon so there you have it agbene we send me the 1975 inquiry report nuni eche ye te actually te eche ye juemo mi let me see if I can put it on the screen. 1975 inquiry ni a champion set up ke obonu ni yue to ye yeah. When I stample, it is from the Supreme Court Library. Report of the Committee of Inquiry into the Ga Traditional Council. I just yes, one single page. Permit mommy, Bolly, let it rain. Yeah, very biblical. The origin of the Gans. I know I blame. Maybe I'm a chore when I can always. The evidence before the committee clearly showed that the Gan-speaking people migrated from somewhere overseas to this country, then known as the Gold Coast. The areas being occupied by them roughly stretches from Nyanyano in the west to Kpong in the east. On the south of this area is bounded by the Atlantic Ocean, and on the north by Equapim stool lands. They came in various groups and arrived on the shores of the then Gold Coast at different times. At this stage, it will be better to deal firmly with those occupying the area known as Ga-Mashie. So, Ga-Mashie, Ga-Mashie. The Ga-Mashie stretches from Victoriaborg Government Printing Press in the east towards the west and forms boundary with Nyanyano in the west. Ga-Mashie can be divided into two main towns, namely Usher Town and Jamestown. I think I can know where you be severally. Usher Town comprises the following quarters: Bese, Asren, Abola, and Otubloum. So kake Usher Town Bese, Asren, Abola, and Otubloum. And Jamestown is made up of the following quarters: English Alata, Nkake English Alata, Adanseke Ajomaku, Sempe, and Akamaje. So Jamestown, ke Usher Town. Neke towns in 1975, you put those two towns together and you have Ga-Mashie. Ona boninchon, you have Ga-Mashie. So ye neke report near me Usher Town and Jamestown fear come in a form of Ga-Mashie. So Ga-Mashie is not separate from Jamestown as the way ni be an near fear to me your own aboninchon. I don't know I get distinction make or a lot make or sense because better PMA so now make like a distinction Ga-Mashie is not part of the other side. Need to own a boninchon. The Usher Town section there, own a boninchon. It comprises of 4 quarters. So you have Bese, Asere, Abola, ke Otubloum. Ni Jamestown section there, English yalata. Ni nojika ke English yalata, but when you are danse ka ke ajumanku, ni ke sempe ke akamaji. Onaboninchon. So I'm a Jamestown. So I put 2 sections there together. Keke have Ga-Mashie. According to this 1975 report, ni a champion. A commission of inquiry ni called Kwenobanaga Astample Supreme Court Library, Accra. We found that the bases, assurance, Abolas, Sempes, and Akamanjis migrated together and arrived together on these shores. So Bese, Assurance, Abola, Sempe, Ke Akamanjin, they came together. The greater bulk of them went inland to the farming, and some were left behind, and those mainly included the Sempe and Akamaji. So now ba share Sempe ka Akamaji amela mention Chimote Boli ono ba chele ngano alo nuko. Those who went inland were led by Prince Ayite, and they settled around Ayawaso and established their capital on a hill, which later came to be known as Okankoi Hill. During their stay at Ayawaso, they fought wars with the Akwamus. We found that the Ga-Mashie people were conquered by the Akwamus. Okay, so there were wars and we actually lost. Our kind of document, nephew, many body but if history, learn more ESV, find any they get external influences on Ga society and culture. Bona, Moning Maji Irene Odote, a research nefe in 1991. Introduction again. The territory of the Ga stretched from Langma in the west to Tema in the east, and from the foot of the Akwapim Hills in the north to the Atlantic Ocean in the south. They share a common boundary with the Akwapim and Achim, in parentheses Akam, in the north, the Hutu, in parentheses Guan, and Fanti Akan in the west, and in the east with the Adangme, to whom they are more closely related than any other ethnic group. The Ga are divided into 6 major traditional states, which together presently constitute the modern city of Accra, the capital of Ghana. From west to east, these states, which are sometimes described as towns, are Ga-Mashie, Central Accra, Osu, Christianborg, Labadi, Teshi, Nungwa, and Tema. Each of these states has several villages under it. As an ethnic group, the Ga are of mixed origin. These diverse origins notwithstanding, they have a common identity as evidenced not only in the use of a common language, that is, the Ga language, but also common social institutions such as their naming system and the annual Umo festival, etc. From the 16th century, the Ga coast began to experience an influx of migrants from the various non-Ga speaking peoples and kingdoms who are neighbors, particularly the Akan, the Hutu, and other Guan and the Ewe. Europeans of varied nationalities were also attracted to the Ga littoral. These people have contributed in no small way in shaping present-day Ga society, history, and culture. The aim of this paper is to examine some of their influences as a contribution to the understanding of the complex nature of Ga society and culture. History. Oral traditions collected by the author indicate that most of the Ga trace their origins to the east of the Accra Plains. A section of Osu trace their origin to Osudoku in the Adangme area. Sections of Ga-Mashie, La, and Teshi trace their origins as far east as the southern part of modern Nigeria, though so far no confirmatory evidence has been established for this. According to oral traditions, the migrations of the various groups of Ga speakers into the Accra Plains took place at different times. Before the Ga speakers moved into the Accra Plains, there were people living there in scattered farmsteads. These people were absorbed by the Ga speaking people. The Ga-Mashie of Tema and the Guang groups are said to be among the earliest groups who lived in the Accra Plains. So far, no definite date has been established for the first migration into the Accra Plains. However, as early as 1557, Ga-Mashie had already developed a well-organized trading system. Of the Ga group, Ga-Mashie emerged as a powerful state. Its capital, Ayawaso, or Greater Accra, where the king resided, was situated 11 miles inland, whilst the coastal settlement of Little Accra was a mere fishing village. Ga-Mashie's emergence as a powerful state was closely linked with trade with the Europeans, who started trading with the Ga from the middle of the 16th century. In 1557, the English trader Towson obtained 50 pounds of gold from Accra and Winneba between 13 May and 2nd June. A few years later, the Portuguese built a lodge which was later attacked and razed to the ground by the Ga. Other groups of Europeans with whom the Ga traded were the Dutch, English, Swedes, Danes, French, and a host of interlopers of all nationalities. By the closing decades of the 17th century, there were 3 forts: Crevecoeur, the present Usher Fort, James Fort, and Christiansborg, belonging to the Dutch, English, and Danes, respectively. In addition to lump sums and presents, the King of Accra, when the agreements were signed for the building of the forts, each European company paid a rent of 2 ounces of gold a month for each fort. They also paid customs duties on goods landed in Accra. The European presence added new dimensions to the economic life of the Ga. Trade, especially in gold and slaves, boomed. From the beginning of the European contact, they gave inland states freedom to trade with the Europeans on the coast. This policy of free trade was changed to a protectionist system in the 17th century. The inland traders had to sell their goods in exchange for European manufactured goods at a market called Abonse, ABC, a few miles north of Greater Accra or Ayawaso. There was strict control and supervision in this market. The change in economic policy from free trade to the protectionist policy brought the Ga into conflict with their neighbors. So one of these neighbors were the Akwamus, vassals of the Ga. The Akwamus strengthened their position on the northern boundary of Accra by incorporating other states. In 1677, war finally broke out between the Ga and Akwamu, and the Ga were defeated in 1680. So that was a 3-year war. Some of the Ga, with their king, fled from Accra and founded another state with its capital, Gliji, across the Volta in the modern Republic of Togo. So ko she Gliji esano na Gliji be gamen be Akwamu wo ne magiaje gamiaje che me ko me na mejofuye ni amagbe na ye Gliji ni amontone efita mani achole Togo e. Among other towns founded by the Ga was Aneho. Once again, Aneho Wale Mefe. From 1680 onwards, it became the practice of the Ga to seek refuge with their kinsmen in the new state wherever they faced difficulties in Accra. Some of the Ga who left for Gliji also returned to seek help from the Ga in Accra in the 18th century, but ended up staying in Accra permanently. The Achim ruled the Ga till 1730, when they in turn were defeated by a combined force of the Ga, Adangbe, and Ikwapim with the help of the Achim. By this defeat, Achim claimed suzerainty, Suzerainty, that is the word, over the Ga till 1742, when Asante defeated the Achim. Asante also took over from the Achim till 1826 when she was defeated by a coalition of the coastal states and British forces. Development among the European nations trading on the coast also had considerable influence on Ga history. After the defeat of Asante in 1826, the British began to consolidate their power on the Gold Coast in general. In 1850, they bought the Dutch forts and possessions, and in 1872, the Dutch possessions on the Gold Coast. This left the British in sole charge of the Ga littoral. In 1874, the Gold Coast was declared a British colony, and in 1877, the capital of the colony was moved from the Cape Coast to Accra, thereby ushering the Ga into a new phase of development. The abolition of the slave trade by the Europeans in the 19th century also opened new opportunities in Accra. One of the results of the abolition was the settlement of Brazilian freed slaves in Accra. These are the Tabon of Ga-Mashie. The above historical outline of the Ga shows that the Accra Plains have witnessed intensive commercial activities and political upheavals. These attracted migrants to the Ga littoral. They came for various reasons. For example, the Otubloum of Ga-Mashie originally settled in Accra as representatives of the Akwamu government. A section of the Alatas of Ga-Mashie came as slaves and servants of the English company to help in the building and maintenance of James Fort. The Abese Fante of La came from the Moor. Hello, and the Moor, hello, Mori, I don't know, on a fishing expedition to La and stayed permanently. The Anehos of Usu and La came to seek the alliance of the Ga in a civil war in their town, Aneho. They decided to stay when they realized that the Ga were reluctant to help them. Composition of the towns. The influx of immigrants belonging to different ethnic groups affected the composition of the Ga towns. In Ga traditional society, the basic unit was and still is the way. A way is an ancestral house to which all those who trace descent through the male line of a common ancestor belong. Every way has its own set of personal names. It was in the way that a child was welcomed into the world through the custom of Ojiemo outdooring. Marriage transactions are made in the way, and it was in the way that a member was laid in state and the last rites performed for him when he dies. Every office among the Ga was and still is vested in the way, and it is members of the way who decided who should hold office, subject to the approval of the elders of the town. As the people of the way increased, one member usually built an annex called Plama close to the original way. It's on a Plamano. The Plama usually developed into another way. Eventually, a cluster of related way developed in one area and became known as an Akucho quarter. Akuchei for the plural. Akucho is derived from we, house, ku, group, weku, family, cho, tree. That is family group or family group tree. Akucho is seen as a tree with branches of way. When so kaka akucho be way pi ka me bo ame na keka ame form akucho. Each Ga state is therefore divided into akuchei, consisting of way. The number of akuchei differs from state to state. For example, Ga-Mashie has 7 akuchei, Osu 4, La 7, Teshi 5, Nungwa 2, and Tema 4. Immigrants were incorporated into the organization of the way and Akuchei. Immigrants either formed separate Akuchei, as in the cases of Otubloum and Alata of Ga-Mashie and Aneho of Usu, or a section of an already existing Akucho, as in the case of the Abese Fante section of the Abese Akucho of La. Individual immigrants who could not build their own way stayed with host, and their children became members of the way of their host. Una sanjie, una neke particular section una trouble ni keba. Conflicts and compromises. The immigrants with their different customs sometimes created problems for the Ga, and the problem of intermarriage between Ga women and Akan men was a source of conflict. The Ga are patrilineal, whilst the Akan are matrilineal. This was confirmed by European traders in their records. Depa wrote in the 17th century, in the inheritance of the crown, the brother succeeds. For want of brothers, the elders of the family without any consideration of the children. So also private estates goes to the brothers, or for want of brothers, to the sisters' children. Only at Accra, the children inherit as well as the fathers, as the mother's goods. Bosman also observed in the 18th century that the children they have by their wives are indeed legitimate, but all along the coast never inherit their parents' effects except at Accra only. According to Barbot, the right of inheritance all over the Gold Coast except at Accra is very strangely settled for the children born legitimate. For the children born legitimate never inherit their parents' effect. Accra is the only place where the children are the sole lawful heirs to the father's or mother's effect. So okay, let's move on to the next one and see. The existence of matrilineal and patrilineal succession among the Akan and Ga respectively meant that children of Ga women and Akan men technically did not belong to the family of either parent. Fortunately for such children, the Ga had a system of adoption whereby children of disputed or unacceptable paternity were adopted into the way of their mothers. My boy. Such children were given a name of the way and could succeed to offices held by the way. In a generic Sanjay P. by a guy, Bona. A gafin a guy by Ga-Mashie, oh, ni mene gaff minolene chege. This system of adoption was extended to children of Ga women and men of alien origins. As the immigrants increased, cases of matrilineal succession became more frequent. This gave rise to conflicts over the law of succession among the Ga. Saba, for example, wrote as follows: it will be doubtlessly noted that the so-called customary law of succession by children, said to be the rule at Accra and among the Ga tribe, is of doubtful authenticity. Kwate Papafield, on the other hand, asserted that among the Ga tribe proper, sons succeed in preference to nephews, or in other words, the succession among the Ga tribes proper is through the male line. The law courts added to the general confusion. Some courts gave judgments in favor of matrilineal succession, though there were always witnesses to the contrary. They, however, considered to the application of patrilineal succession in the Ga towns, such as La and Nungwa, because as Olenu stated, in cases which came before the judges, there was a mass of evidence uncontradicted that they were patrilineal, and the judges were compelled to accept the custom. In some cases, with great reluctance, some judgments of the courts gave rise to Olenu's contention that the custom of succession in Accra Central, Ga-Mashie, is the same as that of the Akan tribes, and different from that obtaining in all Ga Adangme towns and states. Those who made pronouncements in favor of matrilineal successions did not realize that it was the exception rather than the rule. In cases of matrilineal succession among the Ga, either the families concerned were of Akan origin and had, unlike other immigrants, maintained their own system, or the family, even though Ga had uncompromised in the past by allowing sons of female members of the way to succeed in special circumstances. Field made a profound, though exaggerated, statement on succession among the Ga when she stated that there are no rigid laws. There are only certain very usual practices which the elders are at liberty to modify in any way they deem fit. They do not administer law. They administer what seems to them justice and wisdom. In the original arguments and confusions, the writers forgot the key word, compromise. The Ga are indeed patrilineal, but have shown a willingness to compromise and make concessions. Through such succession in the law of succession, sons of female members of the way could succeed, even when such a high office as chieftaincy, Manche, was involved. For example, in Nungwa, one Ajin, the son of a sister of Manchekwe, succeeded to his uncle's stool as a reward for going on a special mission for his uncle. A similar incident happened in La. In these instances, the way of the nephew was added to the old way, which supplied the Manche. By this process, sons of immigrants could easily be incorporated into the ruling organ of the town. Wana bi anekeji wote ni woke won cheche ma shishi won famo ma shishi wasanje afia ma ke ba fa fe neke ona boninchon wasanje ba fa fe neke. So we have to really be careful. Keji woke won famo ma shishi. Separation of religious from secular power. The events of the 17th and 18th centuries affected the nature of political authority among the Ga. The Ga towns were divided into lineage groups under the leadership of Wulomoy, who were in charge of the lineage god, Jimawong. There was a principal god for the whole town, and the Wulomo of this god was the head of the administration. For example, La was under the leadership of the Lakma, Wulomo, and Nungwa was under Gbobu, Wulomo. As the responsibility of the Wulomo increased, it became necessary to separate its religious from its secular functions. This is what happened in La. La oral traditions indicate that the Lakma Grove used to be in the center of the town, in the courtyard of the Manche, who was also the Lakma Wulomo. In the time of Wulomo Oduekpoti in the 18th century, the Lakma god began to kill people because the Wulomo was becoming increasingly involved in secular matters, and therefore certain things to which the god objected were happening in the grove. Besides, the people felt the grove's position in the center of the town was not safe for human beings. The grove was therefore removed to the outskirts of the town, and one Odoe from the Manche's household was put in charge of the god. Thus, the functions of the Lakma Wulomo and Manche were separated. Separation between the religious and secular functions of the heads of the administration occurred in the various Ga towns at which times and in different ways. In some of the towns, the original holder of the office kept his priestly role and designated somebody else to act for him in other matters. This person became known as the Manche chief and was later treated as such by the British colonial government. When he took over the administration of the Gold Coast in 1874, in this instance, the Wulomo, who was originally the head of this town, lost his position to the man he had chosen to act for him. The original combination of religious and secular power in one person, the Wulomo among the Ga, is summed up in the play song. Achomi wayo kron. Midi sofo, midi hini, iliakenkani naganchio ojuba, but I think that is what I am called a pure priestess. Oh, so achomi wayo kron, midi sofo, midihini, I am called a pure priestess. I rule as priest, I rule as king. Again, lalani. With the separation of the religious from the secular authority, the Ga began to adopt certain characteristics of Akan chieftaincy. The stool, which is the symbol of the Manche's office, is said to have been copied from the Akan. State drums and horns were also occupied from the Akan. This explains why, as Nketia stated, the speech mode of drumming associated with the Ga courts is invariably Akan. There does not appear to be an established tradition of drum language based in Ga. The horn language of the Ga chief is also, with a few exceptions, mostly Akan. For example, the horn of the Akamaji Manche sounds. onipa ni aye onipa to nsumu a mahonko aboa to nsumu a to nsumu a jinukodi onipa ni aye onipa to nsumu a manunko aboa to nsumu a jinukodi. Man is ungrateful. If a man falls into a river, let him drown. If an animal falls into a river, take it out to eat. Again, other aspects of the Akan administration were also adopted by the Ga. The way from which the mancha is chosen is known as the Jase, and the head is called Jaseche. This was based on the Akan Jase, whose function is to protect the king or Omaini and perform menial tasks for him. A war captain among the Ga is known as Asafuache, derived from the Akan Asafu War Company. And the Asafu songs are mainly in Akan. The Akan military organization was occupied haphazardly by the Ga. This was probably a result of superimposing the Akan pattern on what the Ga already had. Crowther's commentary in this report of a commission of inquiry held into the commission of the Ga in 1907 sums up the situation. These Ga stools are arranged for military purposes in groups or wings, and from the fact that 3 words are used to describe such divisions, there is strong presumptive evidence that this formation has been initiated, if somewhat imperfectly, from that common to the Akan race. Evidence of its application was conflicting and somewhat meager, but this may be attributable to the fact that it does not affect the judicial system. The stools of Asre, Bese, and Otublohum form round the stool of the Ga-Mashie. The center, those of Alata, Sempe, and Akumaji. The left wing, those of Osu, La, Teshi, Nungwa, and Tema. The right wing. Incorporations into the political structure. You know what? Video said again. So let me leave this. I think I will read the rest later. Too much. So next time, my channel, about incorporations into the political structure. Boli, when Monday they told me. So I can show bodo on a boninton. War ginger for you. War another story. Ni boli. Ni be enough. So anyways, I hope I can inbox oboni. Pay attention to this long reading on a boninton. Like I said, maybe you may not need it today, but I know I can. A few years from now, ke moko fe research ko ne ba share video ne no e ba kase no ko yemi. So wala don wa ade nche wo ba pe with more fire. Twa no manye juno afo no. Bye bye.
Yeah, baba. Yeah, baba. It's neat. Them say you want to chop my